By the way, this episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss. And I know you, Justin, and Lindsay both know that I made the switch about a year ago to Follow Up Boss from being in one CRM for the last 13 years.
I read a stat the other day that 32 of the top 50 teams in the United States use Follow Up Boss already. So, I mean, I guess the proof's in the pudding there.
So whether you have a super team like George or a mini team like me, Follow Up Boss makes it super easy for teams of all sizes to get organized, stay on top of their leads and spheres with less effort, and improve overall performance so you can scale your business.
And thanks to FUB, all of our listeners can double their free trial and get a full 30 days to see how Follow Up Boss can level up your business. And there's no contract necessary, no credit cards required, completely free to give it a go. So visit followupboss.com/inspection period for more details. And thanks, Follow Up Boss, for making this possible.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Inspection Period. I am Lindsay.
I'm Justin.
And I'm George.
And today we have a very exciting non-guest guest. One of our
non-guest.
Non-guest guest. Today we get to focus on one of our own co-hosts. Part of the reason why we started this podcast was that we all have a tremendous amount of experience and stories that we wanted to share with you. And so today we are going to dive deep with our own George Laughton.
Nobody told me it was going to be deep, but I'm
deep.
in.
All the way. Yeah, no, you made that sound so professional. I think the real story is that Estate Media said that we each have to do one of these, and George pulled the short straw. So we're doing that.
Go first.
So,
yeah.
Hey, they need to know you or whatever. And okay, sounds great. I guess we'll figure that out. Who's going to go first?
Yeah, I'm it.
And George is
cool. Now, I'm super excited too. It seems like we always have these. Any conversation the three of us have, I feel like could be a podcast some days. I'm like, gosh, we should have recorded that.
Yeah, there's so much of that before we hit record stuff. Where I'm like, shoot, probably shouldn't. I probably should have saved
baby.
That.
That's gold.
The perplexity. Gold. Now we need to get that in front of everyone. George and our minds are already blown. So I don't know as much about George as Justin does, but Justin, remind me how you and George met.
When I got into Arizona real estate way back in the day, George was already king of Arizona real estate. And, I just wanted to be like George when I grew up. And he's like CrossFit George and beautiful family and honest, awesome, integrous human, great reputation all about him, funny, athletic, has this big team, I'm like, oh geez, he's like Superman to me, basically. That's awesome. And I think we were talking about that at what was it, in Dallas or whatever, George? I said I used to listen to, what was it, the Daily Dose or whatever that podcast was. Dose or whatever Mark and Jeremy did. And I'd hear your story and stuff. And I go, man, it'd be so cool to be friends with that guy one day. And now we were sitting in a hotel room together talking about how we're going to do personal branding together in Dallas, Texas, of all places. So it's been a pretty cool, full circle journey to be not just connected to, but actually somebody that I feel like you're a friend of mine, not just a real estate connection, So I think that's nice how really just that.
Yeah. When you can meet those people that you align with, not just business ideas and stuff, you can challenge each other on business ideas, but then you also have you feel like you have other connection, spiritually or whatever the heck it is, man. There's always those other ones where you're like, oh man, just a good, solid, human, right? There's not many that come along, but definitely felt that the first couple times that we got to hang together, I'm like, all right. Not everybody listens intently. Not everybody is thoughtful. And then even we'll send a thoughtful text from time to time. And Justin's dude, he's that dude that does that stuff, right? You're like, oh, wow. Okay, it's okay to I forget what it was. It was I was starting my no drinking journey. And you're like, hey man, anytime you need somebody to bounce, you text me afterwards after I told you that. And you're like, hey man, anytime you need to bounce something off somebody, you need some help with something, I'm always here, man. I'm like, I don't think I've ever sent that text to a friend. I need to be a better friend. I need to be more like Benson.
I see what you're doing. This isn't flattery. You're trying to turn this episode around on me.
No,
That's
I'm
what
just
you're trying to do. And
about-
she's just deflecting.
I'm about to call you out. Of course, George turns it around, and it's an episode about Justin. But
My bad.
George,
Shit, I wasn't
George
ready
is
for
new
this.
to me, but
Thanks, though.
your reputation precedes you. Definitely in the Arizona real estate world, I've heard of the Laughton team forever, really. It's like since well before I came into real estate, just as being a big kind of super mega team and leading the charge from growing large scale teams and really figuring out how to train and support and keep everyone busy on a very high level. So when Justin threw out, like, what if we added George to the podcast? And I was like, what if we all three did it together? And I was like, I'm down. So it's been awesome just to get to know you over the last 6 months or so. But why don't you bring us up to speed with where you're at right now? What's going on in your life and your business?
Oh man. Let's see. Life-wise, married. So me and my wife, married 18 years this year. We got two beautiful boys. One will be 9 in the next week, and then a 12-year-old. My wife and I dated for a matter of months before we got married in Vegas on a whim.
Stop.
Whoa.
So, no joke.
Wait, how many months? Are we talking like half months? Or
we're talking months, like less than a year, but months.
Okay.
But like I think exclusively kind of dating for maybe 5 or 6 months, something like that. Neither one of us know because I don't think it was like actually official. Like it wasn't like, oh, here's your promise ring. We're together officially, right? It was like, oh no, well, I'm not seeing anybody else. You're not seeing anybody else, right? Okay, so
let's just go get married in Vegas.
Well, no, there's more to it than that.
I want to know how her father reacted to that. She
grew up she's a Pittsburgh girl. Grew up in like Catholic school. All of her life, Catholic college, went to St. Mary's, all of that stuff. And so they were not happy. We'll just say that. They were not super stoked about it. Now, my family knew that if I was ever going to get married, it was probably going to be slightly intoxicated in Vegas on a whim. And so we nailed that. But yeah, so the story was we were actually there at Bartenders Convention. Both of us were bartenders at the time. And I did like flair, like spinning bottles and things along those lines. And we were there for that, and we were hanging out, and we were sitting at a bar. It was, I forget which one. And the bartender's like asking us where we're from. He's like, where are you from? I'm like, oh, well, originally Oklahoma, and I've lived in Arizona. My wife's like, Pittsburgh. He's like, dude, I married a girl from Pittsburgh. It is the best thing that ever happened to me. I married this girl from Pittsburgh, and it has been amazing. You guys should get married. Here's some more Crown Royal. Right?
And God spoke to you at that bar.
4 or 5 drinks later, yes, we're in the Little White Chapel. No joke. Little White Chapel, got married, and best thing that ever happened to me.
I am deceased over this.
Yes.
This seems
that's
so
like that's
out
not the end of the story that usually happens on those. Usually it's like,
no.
And then I commenced on a 3-year journey to try to get it annulled. And
Yeah. So all in all, I think I was out with the ring. I was out like $600. So
Please tell me you've given her proper proposals and an upgrade on the ring.
Yeah, I think so, slightly. Yeah, I don't know about a proper proposal, but she's had a ring upgrade since then. And we did do a reception. Her Catholic family made us do a reception in Arizona once we all got back, and her family flew out and all that stuff. So there was some official stuff to it eventually.
So you really dodged like the whole having to go through catechism, first communion stuff, because you would have had to do all of that to get married in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. So that's let's see, family. Work-wise, what's going on right now? Man, I'll tell you, it's just been
so much
interesting. So much going on. There's always so much going on. The market's just always been interesting. Like I'd say, I was trying to do comparison, like year over year comparisons, and it's so stinking tough to track right now and figure out, are you winning? Are you not? Because we haven't had a normal market, man, since pre-COVID, right? And so looking at
even seasonality is like all over the place. Like our normal seasonality trends are all screwed up right now.
That's the way it feels. And that's what we're seeing, man. I'm like, I just asked Billy, our COO, I was like, hey, can you compare like the last 2 weeks in June to 2019 and see how we were doing then? Like maybe that'll tell us, because, contracts, everything is just a little bit different. And so navigating that, but that's what makes it fun, man. It's never, you think you have the recipe figured out. You think you've got what's next and what you have to do to continue to scale and grow. And then something hits you in the teeth and you're just like, oh, well, all right. You got to keep iterating, keep building. Right. And so that's what makes it fun though.
So tell us, I'm curious of how you got from bartending to real estate, and then how you got from real estate to a team of over, what are you guys at now? For how many team members do you have now?
Fluctuate. We're sitting over 200, sometimes 220, sometimes 250. It just depends.
So thread that needle for me. I'm like, how did we?
I also want to find out Perplexity. If you guys don't know what it is, it's awesome AI. It'll go Google search questions for you. It's incredible. I asked it to go grab interview questions about George Laughton for me, and it informed me that George was also the valedictorian of his high school and got a that's saying something.
There's a story person. To that too.
Yeah,
there's a story to that too.
so valedictorian, go to Oklahoma State University on a scholarship, then bartending, then real estate. Somehow end up in Arizona in the middle of all of that, and here we are today. So I don't know if there's even an elevator version of that story, but I definitely want to hear that.
Yeah. So my parents were, I was born in Flagstaff. Parents, I was actually, gosh, that's another one. I was born on 3rd of July. I was born 2 months premature, and my parents were camping in the woods at that time. 2 months premature. Well, my grandparents had a cabin, but it's in the sticks. It's the middle of nowhere. I was born 2 months premature. And so my dad, she actually had to drive the car to the hospital because my dad had been drinking for 4th of July and could not drive the car. She had to drive herself in. 2 months premature. I was flown down to St. Joe's in Phoenix. My parents lived in Phoenix at the time. Anyways, they ended up getting divorced when I was 6 years old. My mom moved to Oklahoma. My dad stayed in Phoenix. So I've always gone back and forth. It was always like Phoenix was, home for a while. But Oklahoma was where I spent my formative years. It was, imagine as a kid, farm town living is like at 12 years old, you can drive and do things that, you can't do in Phoenix. And so that's what always drew me to that. And so I spent most of my formative years in Oklahoma. Now, when I say a farm town, guys, I mean like the house that I spent most of my like high school and middle school life in was like 900 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I think my mom paid $11,000 for it, something like that.
Oh, that's perfect. That's what I'm looking for out here in California right now. I'm on vacation, 900 square foot, but it's like $9 million. So
close. Very similar. It was, when you say valedictorian, this farm town was about 600 people. There were 13 people in my graduating class.
So the competition was stiff.
Yes. Actually, if you could spell valedictorian, they just gave it to you.
Here you go.
That's what it was. But you still get an academic scholarship. So I still got an academic scholarship to Oklahoma State. But going from a small farm town to a big university like Oklahoma State was a complete culture shock. They have a lot more things, a lot more distractions. And that's, I think, within a year, I'd blown that scholarship. My mom was not happy about that. She actually made me come home back to a small town of Freedom, Oklahoma, and work in what was called it was like a solar salt plant for a few months. And then I was like, well, I do not want to work this hard the rest of my life. And so I went down to Texas for a while, did some real estate work there, and then ended up moving out to Arizona to continue my real estate career and college career. So it was a little bit of both. I always knew real estate was super attractive to me. It was kind of burned into my like psyche by my grandfather. And it just always kind of drew me in. It's like real estate, I still believe, is the best way to grow personal wealth for the average American, or for, just about anybody. It is just a great way. And I saw my family do it. I saw my grandfather do it. And it was one of those things that I always wanted to get into. Super tangible, kind of easier to understand than, anything that I could get my hands onto. And so that's what pulled me towards real estate.
Do you think like the Midwest sort of upbringing? I was having a good chat with my buddy Chris Harder about this. He's from Wisconsin, and he swears that people that grow up in the Midwest but then move to a big city where there's opportunity are like bound to be the most successful people ever, because they're kind, they're gracious, and they're hardworking. And then they go to a big city and go to where all the opportunity is. Like, do you feel like any of those years growing up in Farmville, like, was there any part of that like catered your work ethic? Because you have a really great work ethic. You have the ability to just put your head down and do really hard things, So
yeah, I think so. And I think you guys nailed it. I think that does make a big difference, right? You gotta be a nice person in general to be successful. I mean, there's a lot of dicks that are successful, but to really leave a lasting legacy and an impression, just being a good human goes a long stinking way. To be able to, attract the right kind of people around you, to be able to continue to build the right relationships. And so I would say you have that upper hand if you came from the Midwest, as opposed to some of these other places, for sure.
I'm married to a Midwest guy from Indiana, and I could say I think that's small town Midwest values comes to the big city. I think it's a good recipe.
I agree. And you did get intoxicated by the amount of opportunities. You're like, holy smokes, I can do this. And when you come from constricted opportunities, right? And that's ultimately too what drove me out of Oklahoma, was there just wasn't enough to do. It was the salt plant or work as a farmhand. And those really were your options.
All of my friends that are like, I want to be like the people in Yellowstone. I'm like, the hell you do. Yeah. I grew up on a farm, and that is very hard work. Yeah. You don't want to be the people on Yellowstone.
I'm going to go ahead and pass on that. We had a Yellowstone theme night last week at a retreat in Park City. It was great, but that's as close as I'm ever going to come to being a Yellowstone.
That picture is epic. Did you post it like actually on your Instagram?
Not yet.
Okay, you got to like actually post it.
Oh, they're really good. They're really good.
Telling my Pittsburgh wife that it's not quite the skill set it is in Oklahoma, but when I told her I can castrate just about any farm animal out there, it doesn't kind of have the same like presence as it does.
Yeah, so that's street cred. She wasn't quite impressed. That's street cred. Like, it's absolute street cred in Oklahoma.
I'm impressed by that, actually.
Oh, good. So I knew somebody would be.
I actually am glad to know that about you. Next time we get a puppy. No, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. Yeah. So you move your real estate career out to Arizona. You're just a regular real estate agent. Buy or sell? Bring us through that.
Wait, you were like bartender first at some point.
Yeah. So
real estate.
Yeah. So Oklahoma. So let's start in Texas. I moved down to Texas for a little bit. I was doing right-of-way work there, along with waiting tables at Applebee's. So right-of-way work looked like, and this is where I got my first training around like chain of title and things along those lines. They're running like fiber optic lines or gas lines along these existing easements. And I was the guy that did the title research. So I would go to these small courthouses and do the chain of title research. And I was like, oh, this is freaking easy, but it's feast or famine, right? It's very like transient work. You go where the work is. It's like fracking or oil rigs and things along those lines. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want a transient lifestyle. My sister lived in Phoenix still. She had lived with my dad more than she had lived with my mom. And she had just had a baby. And I'm like, well, I'll go out here and like hang out with the family for a little while, see my sister, meet my nephew, and see if there's some other, getting more into like traditional real estate. But I was bartending at Applebee's, or waiting tables and transitioning to bartending at Applebee's. And then when I moved out to Arizona, I was still waiting tables at Applebee's, and bartending and going to school and learning about real estate. So,
Applebee's is still so underrated to me. I
well,
love Applebee's.
Wait a minute, but you were a bartender at Applebee's, but going to Vegas bartending conventions, learning how to like
that
do the flair.
that was
Like,
like
were you
two, 3 years later.
the
2, 3 years
best
later.
Applebee's bartender that has
Yeah.
ever been an Applebee's
Ever.
bartender?
So eventually, Applebee's actually is a really good place to learn a lot of drinks. Like you
that
learn how
makes
to make a
sense. Yeah.
lot of drinks, and that translates so you can you can get a job in Scottsdale at some point, right? That's what the goal was. Is like, okay, well, you can't just go get a job at that time it was like Access Radius, and I don't
Oh
remember
Yes.
what else they were,
yeah,
right?
I
Like
remember
Next, I
Access
think.
Radius.
So yeah, like Next.
All the Gen
or
Z
something
people
along those
listening to
lines.
this that live in Arizona are like,
Yes.
huh? What?
Martini Ranch was
Oh my
around.
God,
enough.
Martini
Yes.
Ranch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the goal, but you had to get a lot of experience in. And so that I ended up, working there. And then I got a bunch of like flair training through Bahama Breeze at Desert Ridge was where I was at. And then I was working Next in Old Town. And so that's where the flair and everything else came in. But it was fun. It was interesting. I was actually contracted to do 3 fire shows a night. Where you would have to like spin bottles and blow fire and all of that. Yeah. I stopped doing fire shows when my face caught on fire one time. So it was
Sorry, that's not funny.
it was. So what you do is you fill your mouth full of 151, Bacardi 151, and then you spray it, over the bottle. Well, when I took the shot of 151 in my mouth, some dribbled down my chin, and I wiped it with my hand like this, and then I blew my flame, and my chin caught on fire. And what hand did I use to put it out? The one that was quoted in 151. And so when I went like this, my whole face went on fire and the hand went on fire. And so that was my last fire show.
It's such a bummer social media wasn't like really prevalent at that point, because like that video could have been all over the internet.
Yeah. Definitely viral.
I think I'm glad too that didn't go viral.
That would have been like one of those videos like the Chive TV that like circulates like in a gym, the fail vids. Been incredible.
Yeah. That was what you always thought wasn't going to happen to you. You're like, oh my gosh. But yeah. Then,
so are you going to show those party tricks to your kids or not? Like
I do. I pull it out every now and then still. You don't want to get rusty. Yeah. I just did it for church group the other night because they didn't believe me.
It was for church group. That's amazing.
They didn't
All
believe
right.
me.
Who's got a bottle of 151? Yeah. And the guy that like actually has that just sitting in his closet, I have questions.
Yeah, that is true. So where were we? We went bartending.
The spitting fire bartender becomes real estate mogul at some point here in this journey.
What year is this bartending? And you said
so
about 8 years ago, right?
2000 and like 2004 was probably the peak of my bartending career. And I got into real estate. I got licensed in 2006.
Great.
So I was watching. Yeah. So 2006. It seemed in one, I'd wanted to buy rental properties. I'd already purchased one at the age of 22 from as far as like my first investment property. So it was a rental. I was still living in a rental myself. And I know I wanted to have like 4 or 5 rentals. That was really the goal of my real estate career. Wasn't to have this big, like, huge real estate team. It was to build this huge real estate portfolio. And I was focusing on that in listening to Carlton Sheets, Zero Money Down, listening to all these different like real estate investors. And I realized once I started building my portfolio that I could help other people build their portfolios too. And that's when I decided to get licensed. It was like, okay, I can't buy all these things. A lot of things were great opportunities in 2005. And then we thought they were great opportunities in 2006. And so got licensed and I bought 3 houses in the fourth quarter of 06, all on option arm financing. If you guys know what option arm financing is,
Fantastic.
Negative amortization financing.
Yep.
And the market took a crap. Like we started seeing it, and I was new to the industry, obviously. Until 2007, early first quarter 2007, I see like a foreclosure listing pop up on my street. I'm like, huh, what is this? Okay, maybe I need to learn a little bit more about this segment of the industry, in not really realizing how big it was going to get and how much actual default there was going to be. I still focused. I went to a convention in desert, I forget, Palm Desert somewhere, Rio Mac, and it was the REO foreclosure conference. And I'm less than 6 months into having a license, and literally we end up getting some foreclosure accounts, some bank, institutional sellers. And so from 2006, I think I sold 13 properties. In 2007, I had like 8 or 9 listings, but by the fourth quarter of 2007, we had 115 listings and scaled up like an operational like team in no time. And so it was an interesting journey. I don't know how a bartender did it, but my wife and I just like literally those were the times where we slept on a futon in the office. We were selling all these houses and we had zero cash. Right? We reinvesting everything we had back into the business, into the maintenance, into the getting these properties market ready. That there were times that we were going to lose, we couldn't make our mortgage payment because we were trying to cash flow the business. And so that was it was some fun times for sure. It was the gritty time of it. And this actually carried through. By 2009, we had like 600 listings, I think, something along those lines, 600 assets that were under our management, which were either active or getting ready to be active or pending. And we were still cash flow, cash flow crisis that whole time, right? Because you keep getting more assets and more properties, and the money's going out almost faster than it's coming in, and you have to pay staff.
Time of getting paid from the bank.
Yep, the bank. Yeah, we're hundreds of thousands of dollars out, which was, for a guy that's only bartended at that point, was absurd for me to think of that. These institutions could owe you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you just have to wait.
What was you had to get reimbursed for stuff, or right? Yeah. And if you didn't fill it out right, they just tell you that it wasn't filled out right and try again.
Essentially what it was. Yeah. Accounts receivable. It was a nightmare. Like if you filed something wrong, if you put an invoice wrong, if you put it, categorized it incorrectly, you're going to be waiting another 6 months. And that's just the way it was. And we had actually, that's probably one of my biggest business mistakes early, was they had their standards, that you couldn't actually hire a family member to do the work. And I hired my dad. Like at that time, who would wait 6 months to get paid?
Yeah.
I ran out of cash, right? We were out of cash. I'm like, hey, Dad, if you've cleaned some of these properties up, I'll actually pay you, but you got to wait till I get paid back by the bank. Right. And, they found out about it. I lost like our biggest client at the time, because I had hired a family member to do the rehab work.
Jeez.
So that was like, if I could go back, I'm like, man, don't do that. There was other ways to do it, right? Raise capital, do some borrow. Then nobody was lending money.
I also feel like early on in your entrepreneur career, you don't know that those are options either, though. Yeah. Like you just don't know that that's available to you. And when you think about it, you're like, oh God, that sounds way too complicated. And I'm not smart enough to do that, when it's actually not as complicated as you think. So.
Yeah, George, during that time, there's obviously other ways to make money, right? So how did you mentally, emotionally get through?
I was just thinking, how did you get through without OnlyFans at the time? But yeah, continue on.
It was the food pics that really kept him going. But no, I mean, how did you, obviously you're in the thick of it. And when you're in that type of survival mode, you just keep going one day at a time, hoping to get to the next a lot of times. But how did you get yourself how do you keep yourself going when you're hundreds of thousands of dollars, outstanding, like mentally, like what are those conversations that you're having inside your own brain of like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? Because that seems like it would have been a really, really challenging time to see your way
Yeah, and it
out.
wasn't like 6 months of staying power. It was years of staying power to endure that.
I think to me, like, and I just had this conversation today about another business. I see reinvesting in the business as as capital, right? Like it to me, if the business is growing, then I'm winning, right? And so you could see the business growing, right? The number of transactions you're doing, the money's going out. Yeah, don't get me wrong, that sucks, but it's out there working. It's out there working. It's out there growing. It's out there building. Where else would I rather have it? I tell my team this all the time. I'm like, you buying a rental property is not an expense, right? That's moving money from one pocket to the other pocket. And that's the way I think about businesses. I'm like, hey, if I have $500,000 to invest, I don't want it. Well, if I don't want to bring it all into my checking account or savings account. Like it's not doing me any good there. I want to see a business grow. And if I'm not having a bunch of cash come into me, like that's okay too, because I believe in what we're doing over here. And if I just get it in my checking account or savings account, I'm probably going to spend it on bullshit. And at the end of the day, I'd rather invest in other businesses or invest in myself in other ways and buy things that actually are going to continue to make money and have a moat around them. Like that's exciting to me. So even in our flip business, I flipped hundreds of properties. I didn't cash out for a long time. We just kept rolling it over into the next one and self-financing. And you take a little bit of a spiff here or there, like a little bit of profits out. But at the end of the day, we just kept rolling it. And then at the end, right now we actually cashed out because there's not a lot of opportunities today. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, holy crap, we got a lot of capital right now because we just let it roll. But you didn't think about it. You're just like, what excited me more was the next property. What excited me more was the next business. And so as long as I can see that balance sheet growing, like that's more exciting to me.
I think that's such an important thing for people to hear because, a lot of times I'm an indie agent, right? I'm only as good as my last commission check, except for I've made some smart real estate investments along the way to help grow my net worth over time. So you mentioned you bought 3 properties in 2006. What happened with those 3 properties and what does your portfolio look like today? I'm so curious.
Yeah, so those 3, obviously horrible financing. We short sold 2 of them and I foreclosed on 1. The bank on that third one just wasn't as flexible. But we were able to short sale 2. Actually, I couldn't buy. The good news was my wife and I were newly married when I did that. And so I just did the financing in my name. She still had stellar credit. And we were able to go, and basically I couldn't buy for 7 years. I couldn't do much for a while after that foreclosure, but we were able to do things in my wife's name. So it was nice. We did end up, so today we usually sit around like 35 or 40 rental properties at any given time. I've shifted the portfolio around when we were doing a bunch of REO transactions. I ended up getting out of that market with, 25-ish properties. We've rolled that into some other things I got rid of. We had some triplexes and we had some single family and like in C-class areas that was just, they were tough to manage. And so you roll that out. We rolled into some better performing stuff that's just easier to manage. And so, that's been the journey. And today it's 35, 40 single family homes. We've got 3 commercial properties and partnerships on 2 apartment complexes.
Amazing.
Dude, I think it's cool, the idea of reinvesting money. I feel like I was listening to the story about the Red Bull, the dude that founded Red Bull, and he created the most valuable private company that's ever existed on the planet, and the story's the same. Like, he didn't really pay himself very much for a long, long time, even though he founded the company at like 40, and just kept reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. And then they were like, you should go public because it'll be awesome. You'll make a ton of money. And he was like, why? Like, I'm having a ton of fun right now, and the company is growing a lot, and it sounds like a lot of bureaucracy to me. So no thanks. And he just kept going. And then ta-da, one day he goes to cash out, and he's one of the richest people out there, especially owning a private company, which is cool. But that mentality is hard to keep in place when like times get hard and markets shift and fear creeps in and all of that happens. Like, what keeps you in that mindset, locked into that mindset, even when things are hard, even when cash flow is not so great, when you would rather just like put it in your own checkings account just so you can feel a little bit better at the end of the day? Because, like if you got a certain amount of money in your own personal checking account, there's a bit of that like false sense of security, like, and I say false because it is false, like that you're okay, that you're invincible now,
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to invest in anything. The first thing I'm going to invest in is something that I have some control over, right?
Yeah.
Like that to me. And then in the hard times, it's actually easier to see opportunities. Sometimes I think and this we learn from history and listen from mentorships of other entrepreneurs out there is like, gosh, the hard time is that if you can go even more in on your business in the hard times when everybody else is pulling back and retracting, it takes some big balls, but at the end of the day, those are the ones that are going to capture a ton of market share. And so you've got to do it wisely, but at the end of the day, like when everybody else is operating under a scarcity mindset, that's the time to go as abundant as you can and invest in the right things. But it is a mental shift to go that this to me is winning in, that I can continue to focus on the business and continue to do the things when you doesn't feel like your bank account is growing. But at the end of the day, like Jen and I decided, like there was a good decade there where we didn't, we lived on just very minimal salaries within the business, and she would do the transactions. I took a step back, wasn't doing transactions because I'm leading the team, and you take a big step backwards in when it was just her and I, and we were able to do 30 million in production on our own after REO shut down. We went back just down to her, myself, and a TC and one agent, and together her and I could do that many transactions. Like, it's hard to pull back from that and go like, hey, I'm going to take a little bit less. We're going to build this team. And I don't think a lot of people do that. They're not willing to step back and actually get up early. And I think that's the secret sauce. Everybody wonders what the secret sauce is I go, get up early, work on your business first thing. Like, the AM hours are for building your business and strategizing and getting in the details of things. And then the minutia of the day starts. Like, you got to have your meetings, you've got the transactions, whatever you're in. But
fires show up. There's just becomes uncontrollable as the day goes on.
Yeah. But if you're not planning your day and strategizing early, it's going to be really hard to grow anything significant. That's me. Some people are night owls and say they can do it at night, but that never really worked for me. When my brain stops at like 7 p.m. and there's one like, let's do a strategy session tomorrow night. I'm like, well, I'm worthless. You want to get up at 4:30? I'm fine with that, but I cannot do a business dinner. I'm like, we can't talk about a bunch of strategy at a business dinner because I've spent all my brain power early.
I was going to say, one of the things that I heard you say was that you really bet on yourself. Like, if you're going to make an investment, you're going to make an investment in yourself and your vision first. Did you always have that? Like, where was that instilled? Because, we all have this like inner critic, this inner talk track. And a lot of people's is like, you can't do that. Who are you to go do that? But it sounds like yours is like, I bet on myself first. I trust myself to accomplish the goals and vision. Is that true, or is there some inner monologue in there that you had to overcome?
I'll tell you, I I've always kind of believed in the business side of it. There's been many things where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not good enough to do that or do this. I know where my strengths are and where they're not. Doesn't mean I wouldn't give something a try that's not in my strength, but I've always felt good about betting on myself. And I'll tell you, probably the thing that's driven me through more is like, I don't really beat myself up about mistakes or failures.
Mhm.
I just move where I'm like, okay, we learned a lesson here, and I'm moving on to the next thing. That doesn't. I don't lay awake at night having a bunch of regrets on bad decisions made. We learned something from it and we move forward. I see it as you guys have heard me say this in other podcasts. Was like bullets fired. There are things that we've tried, didn't work out. Did I lose some money? I don't know, like maybe, but at the end of the day, we're better because we did it. Right? Well, I know that's not going to work. Oh well.
That was my dad used to say that all the time. Make a mistake once, that's fine. That's awesome. It's learning tax. Make a mistake twice, the same mistake twice, that's stupid tax, and we don't pay stupid tax.
Yeah.
So like, but this the mistakes part of thing is real for sure. I was having a talk with my wife about that the other day, because I'm the same way as you, George, where I don't really like. Yeah, sometimes those mistakes hurt more than others, but I try to figure out what I can extract out of them and then move forward. Was that, you're kind of saying that was always naturally, you were always naturally inclined to do that? You didn't have to like do any mental work or like therapy or whatever that looked like to kind of get to that mindset?
No, I feel like that was all somewhere it was ingrained in me. That mistakes didn't really bother me a ton. In business, that is. I mean, obviously I was, I would beat myself up if I ever failed the test in high school or college or anything along those lines. But then once business came out,
well, you did have 15 people to beat in high school.
Yeah,
so,
hey, there was that one smart girl too. She was always on my heels.
Only one.
Only one. But yeah, I think, like I said, in business and even in life after that, it just never really bothered me if we made a mistake and it didn't turn out the way I wanted. I wasn't such a control freak that I thought these things have to go exactly this way, or they're a failure. And so we've pulled out of many a thing, and I have many probably project going on right now that is not going to work out, but we're going to continue to think and iterate and continue to innovate on stuff, because last thing I want to do, my biggest fear is probably being irrelevant and not durable and going, okay. And you're going to talk about a scary industry to be in that can be disrupted. If an industry can be, it will be, I think. And so when and how, I don't think anybody knows, but we've got to prepare for that stuff. And I think that's what drives me, is like, okay, well, this wasn't the thing, but let's figure out what the next thing is.
I think that's so huge right now, is a relevancy, because I think it's no secret that I feel like everyone's coming after commissions and coming after our jobs, really. I mean, there was a time where we talked about real estate being on the blockchain and, all of the iBuyers, especially in Phoenix, and the competition real estate agents really have to get a share of our earnings. How do you, with such a large team, how are you providing guidance and support along some of the big industry changes? And how does that play into like a lot of the decisions that you're making and things that you're investing and where you're placing your bets for the future?
I think all of kind of innovation budget is going towards AI. Right? It is what do we think can happen? And actually, Billy, COO, and I were having a conversation today. Is what won't change, and that's, I think, Glut shared that. I've said that Bezos quote, right? Like, is I don't focus on what's going to change. I focus on what's not going to change. And we were just talking through the agent experience with the consumer, and I'm like, AI can't do these things, certain things, right? Not today, maybe not for a long time or ever. And so focus on those, focus on building really good, strong relationships, focus on, really truly listening to your clients and understanding what their needs are, and be this great guide through the real estate process for them. And AI is there to support you in that. It should be your co-pilot in this. And so, one, don't be so scared you're not utilizing any of those tools either, because there's so many amazing things that AI can do for you as essentially your assistant. That you got to be leaning on that. You got to be thinking about that, I think. Obviously, we're training and coaching our agents on how to deliver value in that, especially from the buy side of the transaction. But I also, I think we're an industry of a lot of drivers. There's a lot of DIs in this business. We follow disc profile, and they want to solve the problem and get back to business, right? Like just solve it and let's get back to business. Like, George, what kind of forms are we doing? What are we going to do here? What are we doing on this? I'm like, guys, there is a time for tactical. Yeah, there's a time for tactical patience. And I want to know just as much as you want to know. But at the end of the day, you have to be patient. You have to have some patience and not upend your business while there's still some uncertainty in this, right? And so there's not a lot of times I stress that tactical patience as much as I am right now. And so that's it. Just, hey guys, be proactive. Don't bury your head in the sand. Be working on your scripting. Be working on, role playing with your teammates. Understand the forms as they're being updated. Stay up to date on things. Be able to answer the questions from the consumer, but don't go here and like upend your complete business and change your model because you're operating out of a little bit of fear.
That makes sense. Dude, that's thinking about AI and those ways of things that won't change is interesting as well. Because even if I live in tech land, right? So if anybody would trust it sooner than anybody else would, I would be the one wanting to root for that. And when I think about, man, well, I would want to call a local real estate agent that I kind of like vibe with. They understand my lifestyle, what I'm getting at, and have them help me pick out houses because they're going to understand that. So the first refute that comes into my brain is, well, AI can't do that. The reality of that is that it probably could in due time.
At some point,
if you give it enough, it can match your personality type. It can figure that out for sure. But I still don't trust it, funny enough. Like I still actually want to talk to a human and actually have that connection to understand that this is a place where my children are going to be raised and, whatever that looks like. So I agree that part of the human interaction, it's not going away, at least in our lifetimes anyways. It might change, It might shift, it might look different, but I don't think that it'll change or that it'll go away.
Yeah, I agree. I think it creates some incredibly efficient and consistent real estate agents. Mm-hmm. But you think of what the great ones do that build that really strong connection is I want to have that connection with my agent. Jen and I were just up in Munns Park, and we're not looking to sell our cabin and buy a new one, but we were cruising around, did the whole open house thing and just cruised into an open house. I don't think the agent knew what she was walking into, but at the end of the day, she did a really great job and she pitched the property really well. She walked us through everything. She created this really great experience and built a really good connection by asking the right questions and understanding who we were. And then she executed on some things that I haven't been able to execute on that I'm not sure AI could. One of them was like, hey, we would move, but I really want this cabin next to our friends that's right up the road here. And I know these people, I don't know who they are. They might be willing to sell. I never see them there. So 24 hours later, she's like, hey, I talked to those people. I found their phone number. They're not interested in selling. They're actually, it's in a trust and it's going to go to their kids. But I did see this other property here. I did a walkthrough for you. Here's the video of the house. And
dude, did you recruit this lady to be your Munns Park team leader?
I'm like,
you need
babe,
to recruit her.
That's what I told my wife. I go, babe, am I smitten or is this girl really good? She's like, she's really good. I'm like, okay, you need to tell her that because I feel weird. Like, I'm like, you're freaking a rock star. But anyways, so she sends me this video. It's not in our search area and it's not in our like criteria. Like, it's price point, square footage, everything is off. But she's like, hey, I thought you might like this one. I did a walkthrough today and it's freaking gorgeous. And I was this close to writing an offer.
Stop.
Right? AI can't do that. Right? AI can't do that. I'm like that. And I don't know when it would be able to because it's working off the data and the information that it has. And is it
Yeah.
intuitive enough to know those things? And like that to me is what creates a really good real estate agent. But then she could have been powered by AI to be able to be more efficient, consistent, and do the same thing with 10 other. She's out there being able to go and look at preview 10 other properties and send to the right clients, or send that same one, right, to 10 clients, because AI is working in the background and helping supporting her with that. So
I feel like we need to give her some airtime. What's this gal's name?
I know, right?
No, I
Going
don't
to
want everybody
Munns
else to
Park.
try to recruit her.
Come on, George. No gatekeeping on the inspection period.
George is trying to start a Munns Park team now because of this
Yeah.
lady. So
Yeah, I don't know if the 25 transactions they have a year is worth the investment.
Sustainable.
Yeah.
What's the role mentors have played in your life? What are some of kind of like your, people that you've watched and invested in to guide you in your career?
Yeah, I've had a lot of coaches in my career. I paid and invested. It's been a big part of my P&L my entire like real estate career from early on, which was 2007. I hired a business coach right when things were going crazy. Bill Hart with Building Champions, which I think he's still coaching today. Super amazing man. And that gave this young bartender kid a lot of knowledge. I also had a great partner at the time, Scott Gibson, who was super knowledgeable as well, and was able to kind of help me become a better businessman. So I'd say I owe a lot to those two gentlemen early on in my career. As far as like ongoing mentors, I've been coaching with Tom Ferry for a number of years. Tom's a friend and the guy that I bounce big ideas off of. But I would say most of my like mentorship and knowledge comes from like reading. I've always been a reader, or it was books on tape. Like I was the guy when I say Carlton Sheets is the no money down, like how to buy rental investments. Those were tape cassettes that I would put into the car. And as I was driving, my commute was always, or wherever I was doing, even when I was bartending, had a book on tape. I didn't listen to, I'm probably the least musically inclined, like no music. Like if we got into a trivia game and music was one of the categories, I would definitely lose because I've always listened to audiobooks or books on tape and things along those lines. And so a lot of biographies, I find that those are some of the best. The guys that I'm avidly like would consider a mentor without ever knowing is like a Charlie Munger and gosh, I don't know. There's so many of them. But
give us what your like top 3 required reading should be in George's
business wise. 5 levels of leadership has always been up there, especially as you go into leadership. If you're a newer agent and you're just trying to get things going on your team and you're trying to build something, 4 disciplines of execution, 40X is right up there. Good to Great, another good one. Gosh, and that's like, give me a genre, like you're trying to hire, I would go to Who by was it Jeff Smart? I can't remember who that is, but there's so many good books out there. I'm reading a book right now, The Source by Tara Swart, I think, which is actually really good. It's about visualization and manifestation, which is really good. But then I'm reading another book that is all about aligning incentive packages. So it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. There's so many great books out there. It's hard to kind of narrow it down to a few.
Well, I think this is really important because one of the things that I've noticed as like a common theme with really successful people is that a lot of them were self-taught and they had this thirst and hunger for knowledge. And it sounds like you are that lifelong learner. And I think that's where, anyone who's listening to this is probably going to fall into that category too, right? Like they're interested and hungry and thirsty for more knowledge. So, I just love hearing what books people are in.
He's like literally checking off all the boxes for things. I read a lot of biographies, and then that Founders podcast, George.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
I'd I've listened to almost all of them at this point. There's like definitely some common traits between all of the successful founders. And it was like believed in themselves. They got their way. It was like came from some sort of struggle almost always, and then figured out how to get out of that, and then figured out how to believe in themselves almost to a delusional level for some of those people, were avid readers of not just self-help books, but mostly biographies. And they learned those were their mentors. And then they would trust their own gut on their decision from all of the information that they've digested and synthesized. They didn't outsource those decisions to other people. They were ultimately the ones. So you've like checked all of those boxes all the way down. So congratulations.
Oh, thanks, man. That is, and by the way, I'll advocate for that too. That Founders podcast is amazing. The best biography I've read, and you told me to read this one. I've heard from actually several people, but Elon Musk biography was freaking mind blowing.
Yeah.
It made me rethink a lot of our SOPs and regulations and everything else. But so many great ways to learn out there. But that's true, Lindsay. Like, I think as soon as you stop learning, it's like you start becoming irrelevant, right? Like at that point, if you think you've got it figured out, or you feel like I don't have to be a student anymore, like, gosh, man, like that's like the end of growth to
right?
me.
If you're not growing, you're dying. There's a reason why that's the quote, right? Like,
exactly.
And I mean, it's in business, it's in personal development, it's in your relationships, it's in every side of things. One of the questions you brought up early on was everyone's either running from something or running towards something. So I'm going to throw that question back at you, George. Today, what are we running towards? What are we running from?
I think so running towards is, for me, great relationships, honestly. I used to think it was increasing my net worth, is what I was running towards. It turned out that wasn't as quite fulfilling as I thought it would be. Now with 2 children, my wife, 18 years together, and growing and still every day trying to get better for her, trying to get better for my sons, and then trying to get better for all of my team members, whether it's an agent on my team or, a transaction coordinator, whoever it is. Like, I want to be the best version of myself, so I can help all them be the best versions of their self. And I'll tell you that is the most, and no bullshit, guys, like that's where the fulfillment comes. And when I think about it, I go, the thing that excited me the most in the last couple of weeks was getting to help a 25-year-old agent understand how to set up buying her first rental, where she needed to put her the money that she had made over the last year. She kicking butt, by the way. And so recently engaged, going to get married, all of those things, and showing her how to set all the stuff up that she needs to for a PLLC and everything along those lines. It was definitely the most fulfilling part of my last 2 weeks outside of family stuff. So that was what I'm running towards. Running from, I think, gosh, without going too deep on this,
we said we were going real deep.
I grew up, so my dad was like a severe alcoholic, and had always chosen the bottle over his family. And so I had done a lot of things in my early career as a way of, out of spite, showing them that I don't need anybody. And so like my 25-year-old self was very, very determined, but also very angry, and was just throwing the middle finger up at the family to be like, I don't need any of you guys. I don't care. I'm doing this on my own. And that's what drove me. And that too is not quite fulfilling. And so, I think I'm running. I don't know if it's running from that. I'm trying to evolve from that more and more every day.
That's the therapy side of things is something that is interesting in the midst of that, right? Or like unpacking that. Like, what do you do? Is it a combination of books that you're reading, friends that you're talking to, and like therapists? Like, what are your ways that you use to dig into that stuff in your own personal life?
Yeah, I think it's those really vulnerable friendships.
Yeah.
As dudes, like a lot of times we don't have those.
Yeah.
And I do have a few of those. Just over the last few years, you actually become, I think, a little more vulnerable as you get older. Maybe it is, and it's not so much the bravado that's needed, and you realize like I really want good men around me and good women too, obviously, but I need to surround myself with men that value their relationships, that value their marriages, that strive every day to be a better father and be a better businessman. Those are the kind of guys that I want to be around. The therapy plays a key role in that as well too. I think you gotta talk to somebody at the end of the day, and being able to process through things and understand how it's just, it goes back to the growth, man. Like it just, you being your best version of yourself, you owe it to the people around you, owe it to yourself too. And so that's always been part of the journey. And then books. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of freaking books, man. Michael Singer, the Surrender Experiment is probably one of the best books out there. I think, did we talk about that with Glutch too?
We did. I just downloaded it on Audible. I haven't started it yet, but it's on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget who it was with, but yeah, it's such a good book.
Such a great book. And there's many of those though. Like, so I think that's, it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, and it's been trying to be more vulnerable with myself in it. And so, and with my wife and all of that together. So it's been cool to have her by my side with it as well.
Dude.
So you normally take the tactical side of things, but I heard a lot of things today. And I think the number one thing is that it's your net worth, your real estate portfolio. None of those things mattered. It's all about the relationships. And so, prioritizing on becoming the best version of yourself and the relationships around you. Is that part of the advice you'd give your younger self if you knew what you know now then?
Yeah, I think so. It's a 25-year-old self would probably be, don't be so angry in that, right? And so you build those deep relationships first. Don't close yourself down because you want to just do it on your independent, right? We wear that with a badge of honor that we're independent. It's what I try to teach my team is that, like, independence is nice to have. You don't want to be dependent on anybody, but we can also create this interdependence where we work really well together. And I see that. And so moving from this completely independent person that don't be so angry, don't try to be so independent, support other people and take support when it's given to you, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, I love how honest you are in that, because I think it's easier. It's easy to look at that and go, well, George, you run one of the biggest teams that's in the nation. You got enough money. Like, nobody's going to starve tonight. Everything's fine. It's easy to say that now. But you gave plenty of examples of ways that you did that even as you were coming through the ranks, like trying to keep that thought going the entire time, because I think one thing that's impressive about you is that you can't there's lots of people in the industry and people that I've met in other industries that they have success but they're like kind of a dick, and that success is pretty short lived. In order to do it well over a large period of time, which in my belief is real success, like anybody can have a good idea, be an asshole, lie to a bunch of people and make a bunch of money in a little bit, but like to do that over 10s or 20s or even 50s amounts of years, takes a different kind of person to do that. And you are the kind of person that does that. So
I was just going to say, so we've talked a lot about the struggles though, but in all reality, you have experienced a tremendous amount of success. And I think it's cool to share some of the cool things you've gotten to do, or I really wanted this, and like those moments that you celebrated. And even if it is materialistic, hey, we've all been there, we've all done that. But are there any like, wow, I hit this mark and I will only fly first class now? Or no, I'm seriously, because I do think think that like there's an aspirational sense of like, you work that hard and of course you want to reinvest back in your business to make sure that it stays healthy and grows. But like you also want to improve your own quality of life. What ways have you been able to do that?
Yeah, I think one of the big things for me was I hate doing laundry. And so my wife was never, she's always super cool about stuff, never ragged me about helping with laundry or anything, but we were able to like, that was what I wanted to do. I'm like, I wanted somebody to take care of laundry and meal prep.
Nice.
And that was like one of my goals on a vision board in, gosh, I'm going to date myself, 2014, maybe something like that. And ever since then, Jen's taken it back from time to time when we had like a transition in support and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I've never had to match socks. And I'm pretty freaking stoked about that.
I love that. I love that for you, George.
And the food prep, dude. That's
food prep's insane. And
yeah.
And I'm not, it doesn't even, I'm not even talking anything super complicated. But man, it does take time. Like if you're food prepping every Sunday, if you're trying to eat clean and you're food prepping every Sunday, man, it's
a lot of time. Yeah,
it's a lot of time.
Yeah, my friends that have like sold tech companies and stuff, like one of the first things they do is hire a private chef because everybody that has gotten to that version of wealth, like every last one of them says, I spent money on a bunch of ridiculous things, and the only thing I kept at the end of it was my chef. Yeah. So.
Well, that's even through like care.com, and grocery delivery and everything, the way that you have it. So, you can you can have somebody from care.com come in your house for 3 hours a week and do all your meal prep for you. And it costs you $80-$90.
Yeah, it's not.
And you have the groceries. I tell her what recipes I want done and what I'm looking for. And I have all the groceries dropped and it's done when we get home and it's packaged up, or it's like, she'll do like in big bulk, like the protein in a big bulk and then the carb in a big bulk. And then I just portion them myself. So
yeah, I think that's so. It's kind of that buy back your time concept, right? I mean, we've talked in other episodes about you have to calculate your hourly rate, and if you can have something done for less, and you're going to repurpose that time to either enjoying your life more or creating more productivity and income for your business, it makes sense to do. So I'm glad that you don't have to match socks.
Me too. I'm super stoked about that.
Congratulations.
Is there anything worse in this world though? Like, I'm serious, man.
Well, this has been a super illuminating episode. I have learned so much about you, George. I feel
like we're going to have to do another one on like his actual team. Cause I have like all these questions to ask you, like, how's your team? Obviously I know the answers, so I think it'd probably be helpful for other people to hear, like, what's your team structure? How's that whole regional team thing work? Like, are they actually in pods? Like, what does that look like? How are you keeping really awesome talent on your team and that they're not going anywhere? So I think for everybody listening, know that we'll slate another episode where we probably dig into more of that stuff and probably combined wisdom, because George has a ton of that information socked away in that brain over there through trial and error.
That'll be fun.
Is there anybody that like on your team or in your life that you want to shout out really quick before we jump off?
No, I mean, there's so many amazing people that like, if I started naming, I'm going to forget somebody. And those are the things that keep me up at night, is when I forget to recognize those people that work so stinking hard around me. There's so many amazing, talented people, like A players in so many levels, like that have been with me from the beginning too. I've got some ones that have since, it was just Jen and I and that first agent's still with us to this day. And his life has changed. And the second agent's still with me today and her life has completely changed. And that's pretty freaking awesome, man.
It is. George, if people aren't already connected with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah. Instagram's probably where most up to date. If you follow me personally, it's at George Laughton, but usually all I'm doing there is making fun of myself or my wife. You're not going to get a bunch of business tips from me there. And then if you follow at Laughton Team, we have some, I'm always putting out content on that as well too. So those are the best two platforms.
Your meme game has been stepping up though. Your videos and everything that you've been posting on your personal.
On the team side or
no, on the personal side.
On the personal, I know, man. You should see the list I have, man. I've got content for days. If I could just actually have a good like video editor, or at least
Oh,
somebody.
that's right. You have like a content person, or did you write down all that content?
No, I wrote down all the content. I've got all these ideas, but then I'm like,
today I'm going to scare Jen by popping out around the corner. Like,
that's the stuff.
I'm going to let a rabbit loose in the house, or like now I'm just coming up with things for you.
I actually, I have video of a rabbit actually got into our house not too long ago. So,
like a wild rabbit?
Like a wild rabbit. My son, my 8-year-old, was like, a rabbit just ran across the living room. I'm like, bro,
you're on drugs, kid.
What did
Stay out of the
take?
medicine cabinet.
Yes. What is going on here? And sure enough, there was a rabbit in our guest room, and I had to catch it. And Jen has video of me squealing like a girl when it jumps up into the container at this big leg, and we let it go free. Like it worked out really, really well. But there was a moment where I did scream a little bit.
All right, so make sure you guys all follow George on his personal, because that's where that
one
going.
might come out. I've been holding that one back, but came in through the doggy door, I assume, while we were out of town. I don't know.
Oh, smart bunny.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for another inspection period. We love our guests and to discuss things with others, but it's super nice to just be able to do something, the three of us together. And I hope you enjoyed it. So be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcasting platforms. And while you're at it, make sure to check out some more videos from Estate Media.
And as a reminder, inspection period listeners get a full 30-day trial of Bub. No contract, no credit card required. Just go to falloutboss.com/inspection period for more details.